In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn Hart. What's up, everybody?
I hope everybody is having a happy Hanukkah and a good Christmas creep.
Christmas is on the creep. It is currently Hanukkah. So
Hanukkah is very now. Although
we're talking about current events, so it's Hanukkah week.
Yeah. Happy Hanukkah to all our boneheads. I've been lighting my Hanukkah and trying to spread a little bit of Hanukkah light to everyone in my life. I dropped off. Katelyn, do you want to tell the listeners?
Yeah, I got a really funny Hanukkah gift from Sophie. I had a particularly weird day at work, and then I was home. I was just hanging out, and then I hear kind of footsteps outside my apartment, and I was like, it's probably just a neighbor or something. I didn't think much of it, and then I went outside, and there was a bag out there, a gift bag with this adorable upside down Santa mug and Starbucks peppermint hot chocolate and those Hershey's Kisses made with candy canes, although we call them peppermint bitches.
We call them peppermint bitches because they're little bitches because you can eat about 1,000 of them and still want more.
If you hear me slurping on anything, just know I'm slurping on peppermint hot chocolate out of Santa, who is currently upside down. I'm drinking out of his
Santa's butt. You're drinking out of Santa's butt.
Yeah, and his arms are like the little legs on the teacup. I think maybe I'll post a picture of this for our listeners, but yeah, I hope you don't find it offensive that I'm drinking out of a Santa mug for our Hanukkah episode.
No, I think it's great. You know, Jesus was Jewish. I think Santa's probably Jewish. I think Travis McElroy postulated that Santa might be Jewish because he works on Christmas, just like all the rest of us Jews.
Yeah, so Sophie, this is your episode. Sophie is Jewish. I am not.
Yeah. So I am a big fan of, TV and movies and media of all sorts. And I love when media have holiday episodes. I love a Christmas episode. I love a New Year's episode. I love a Thanksgiving episode. But you very rarely get a Hanukkah episode of anything, which kind of sucks because when Hanukkah is kind of your main deal, you're like, I want a Hanukkah episode of something, So now that I have my own piece of recurring media, I thought, why not make my own dream come true and
make
have
your
a
Hanukkah dream come true?
Yeah, it's a Hanukkah miracle, which is a thing.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So we're recording on the 13th. Hanukkah started at sunset on the 10th, right?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. So we're at the Hanukkah midpoint, I believe.
Nice.
Although this episode will come out post Hanukkah, but I still think it's the reason for the season,
Hey, you're the one who's Jewish, so you do what you want.
That's true. I am the one who's Jewish, and I will do what I want.
Thank you.
And and the first thing I want to do is, Katelyn, do you know the story of Hanukkah?
I could tell you the dummy version of the Hanukkah story. You know what I mean? That book, Hanukkah for Dummies. I could probably tell you the paragraph version of the story, but I need a refresher, so please.
All right. Here's a little bit of a Hanukkah refresher for Katelyn and for everybody, even though I know I hope there's a couple Jewish boneheads out there. Okay, so Hanukkah is a Jewish festival, and it commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem at the time of the Maccabee revolt against the Seleucid Empire, and it's also known as the Festival of Lights. So we observe Hanukkah by lighting candles on a Hanukkah, which is technically different from a menorah. There are different kinds of like candelabras that have significance. And what you do is you start from the right and you add a candle for every day, and you light them with a shamas, which is a candle that goes on the middle holder. That's the important like helper candle.
Does the helper candle represent the oil? No, cut this out. No, it doesn't. It's a candle. It's not oil. There is no oil in modern menorahs, but
no, but it is significant because, each candle represents each night, and the shamas is kind of like the oil because it transfers the light from each night.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Other fun Hanukkah activities include playing dreidel, which is fun because you got to teach the kids how to gamble early. I have a lot of wonderful memories of having arguments with my brother over how much, because you play with gelt, which are like these little chocolate coins. And it's hard to find like Jewish themed ones these days. Like I bought some at Bartell's and they have like JFK on them.
What does he have to do with anything?
Nothing. He has nothing to do with anything, but he's on our religious candies.
I don't want him on my candy. Get off.
I don't want to think about JFK while I'm arguing with my relatives over how much candy I want.
I think JFK might be on the silver dollar, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, definitely that's why. They're bit bigger coins. So the events that kind of lead to the reason why we have Hanukkah are such. So in about 168 BCE, there was a temple, and it was renamed for the god Zeus. And the Jewish people around were like, hey, that's not cool. That's our temple. We want to keep it as our temple. And they were like, And so Judah, who was one of the elder sons of the Maccabee family, was like, come on, everybody, let's get together. We're going to lead some military resistance. And even though they were super outnumbered, they miraculously won 2 battles against the Syrians who they were fighting. And so they get back to the temple after having a simply rowdy war. And when they entered the temple and began to reclaim it from the Greeks, they relit the eternal flame, which is like something that's in all Jewish temples. If you go to a Jewish temple today, which you probably shouldn't during COVID, but when you go to a Jewish temple, you'll see that there's an eternal flame. Like some places it's real fire, a lot of places it's not real fire because it has to burn, all the time. And so they thought that the amount of oil that they found in the temple was only going to last one day. And they were like, oh, this really sucks, but we'll send a messenger out to secure more oil and hopefully he'll still be burning when he gets back. And it totally fucking did. That shit burned for 8 days and 8 nights. And when the guy came back with more oil, they were like, oh, fuck yeah, this is a miracle. And now we celebrate it every kind of, December, November on the Jewish calendar. It has a set date on the Jewish calendar. On the Gregorian calendar, it moves around, but it's usually November, December. But, we light the lights Hanukkah to remind ourselves that we have what we need. Even if we think that we don't, we have what we need to subsist. And, in this time of uncertainty, I think that's a great message.
I was just going to say, what a powerful statement and message, especially now when we're stuck at home. So what you're surrounded by, it is enough. And we're lucky that we have a roof over our heads and have food to eat. So
yeah.
Happy Hanukkah, Soph.
Happy Hanukkah. So for this episode, I thought we could just do some stories that were maybe either related to Hanukkah, or related to the Jewish faith, or just kind of showed the themes of Hanukkah. Should you go first or should I?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to start it off or do you want to finish it off with a bang?
I'll finish it off with a bang. Why
No
don't you get things rolling?
Yeah. All right. So here I go. To start, I simply Googled Jewish bones.
I'm sure that brought you a variety of things, both bummer and non-bummer.
Yeah, I just, I was like, what am I going to do? This podcast is about bones, but I want it to be about Hanukkah as well. So I found 3 kind of articles that 2 of them, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to even tell you about it. The first thing I want to talk about is Jewish cemetery etiquette.
Ooh, something very pertinent.
Yeah, Jewish bones. So obviously this was one of the first things that came up.
That's, you gotta have good manners when you're around Jewish bones. I feel like that's one thing. Judaism has a deep respect for the dead.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So I'm gonna get into this. First off, I want to ask you a question. There are a few words in Hebrew that if I sent them to you, do you think you'd be able to pronounce them, or should I just do my best?
Send them to me and I'll see which ones I know.
Okay, pause.
Because listener, I had my bat mitzvah, but I was very bad at it. I literally memorized my Torah portion because I was like, I can't read Hebrew. So we'll see how this goes. But, you memorize stuff sticks in your craw. Let's take a look. I have an email.
You're still going to be able to do this way better than I can. So I just emailed you my notes. I'll tell you when it's time.
Okay.
So you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
So my source was a website called jcam.org. And I was like, ooh, what's jcam? jcam?
Sounds dirty.
jcam is the Jewish Cemetery Association of Massachusetts.
Oh, much cleaner and more wholesome.
Yes. I kind of thought it was a journal or something at first, and then I did a little digging.
You did a little digging, did you?
I swear to God, I didn't plan that. So I found this information in a section of their website where it looks like they got their information from an author named Maurice Lamb, and the book is called The Jewish Way in Death and Mourning. And there are 2 sort of basic principles that they say serve as a guide to correct etiquette at a Jewish cemetery. And my 3rd bullet point down, can you read that word, the first kind of principle?
Kalut Rosh?
Yeah, cool. That's what I thought it would be. And It basically means levity. I had to look up what levity meant because I was like, yeah, I kind of know what that means. But another word for levity is frivolity. So
yeah, levity just makes me think of like, oh yeah, we're having a great time. I'm throwing confetti in the air right now.
Oh yeah. Like it's New Year's Eve, but you're a mess.
Yeah, exactly. But you're a mess.
So Kalut Rosh is the spirit of levity and undignified behavior. So within this kind of principle, you can't eat and drink at a cemetery. It's disrespectful. You do have to dress appropriately. This was interesting. It said you shouldn't dress to impress anybody that attend, but it's definitely not the time for, quote, scant or frivolous looking dress, athletic attire, or work clothes.
Okay, so don't wear your soggy sweatpants, but I better not see any cleave.
It doesn't seem like that would be appropriate. It's not really appropriate at any cemetery, I'm guessing, but...
Yeah, I feel like that's good rules for dressing for most kinds of funerals. I'm not going to say all, but most.
Yeah, to each his own. Okay, also, you should never step over or sit on the gravestone that directly covers a grave. You should be sitting, like, on benches near the grave or like on the road nearby. Like you should not be sitting on tombstones. You shouldn't be even stepping over them.
For sure. But I thought for a second that you meant the tombstone of the dead person. I was gonna be like, that is extremely rude. Why would you go sit on the tombstone of the dead person?
Well, I think it goes without saying, don't sit on the tombstone.
Yes, for sure. But I'm glad that we have it down in writing.
So if flowers have blossomed or like weeds or something, you can trim them to make it, prettier, aesthetic, but don't you dare take those flowers home because they can't be used at your home.
I feel like I've heard that one as well, but I feel like don't take flowers from a cemetery also is a thing.
Well, no, it meant like growing out of the ground. Like,
But
yeah,
still.
I don't think if you see a bouquet of flowers at the cemetery, regardless of religion, like just leave it there if it's not yours.
I know, but also who goes flower picking in a cemetery? Who goes to pick stuff that's growing out of the ground at a cemetery?
I don't know, weirdos.
Fucking freakazoids and creepazoids.
I don't think anybody should be doing it. And the Jews agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this next sort of principle, I have no idea how to say it. Do you see the next one?
Lo egg larash?
Okay, lo egg larash.
That's my guess. That's my guess. Don't come for me. Or politely correct me, please.
Yeah, we'll take a polite correction. This is referring to slighting of the dead. So you can't do anything that would be considered like a pleasurable activity or even anything religious at the grave. And by that, I mean, you shouldn't be studying the Torah or reciting Psalms or doing anything that has to do with like daily services within 6 feet of a grave. And you also shouldn't even carry the Torah in with you to the cemetery.
Gotta leave that Torah at home.
Yeah, basically, and I find this really fascinating because the person who's dead can no longer read the Torah and participate with you. It's considered rude to them or an affront, a slight is the words they use here to the dead person. So don't do anything that would make the dead person jealous, I guess.
Yeah, don't be eating an extremely delicious sandwich in front of the dead or listening to your favorite song.
No, no frivolity. None of it.
None of it.
Okay. So moving on with the seriousness, mourners are allowed to bring like a token to the funeral or they can send it to the family during Shiva. Traditionally, it's not flowers or fruits, though. It's usually something more religious in nature. So like maybe a copy of the Torah or some kind of prayer or something, it seems like. It's a part of ancient Jewish custom to donate to charity at the time of the passing of a loved one. And it symbolizes, quote, the anguish felt in common by all Jews for the family of the deceased, end quote. And then it said that if the person who died was particularly close to a charity or a cause or something, you should try and do donations to that kind of charity.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. So speaking of wonderful things, my other 2 sources were from timesofisrael.com. And these 2 stories I just found delightful. These are just 2 stories of citizens that have taken it upon themselves to restore Jewish cemeteries.
Aww.
Right? Okay, get your Kleenex out.
I know. I'm already misting up, but continue.
So the first one is an 18-year-old. His name is Nathaniel? Nathaniel? I don't know. Netanel?
Nathaniel?
Nathaniel. Let's say that. His last name is Chris.
Like Daniel.
Okay. Chris is 18. He's a senior at Burr and Burton Academy in Manchester. So he's 18 years old. This is in Vermont, or this cemetery is in Vermont. This is a quote from him. Quote, I decided it's my responsibility to honor these pioneers and preserve their history because it's vital to the history of our state. So he's talking about a cemetery that was for the first German Jews, which settled in the Slate Valley along the New York-Vermont border in about the 1860s. So these families established Vermont's first Jewish community in a place called Pulteney, and the cemetery doesn't even really have a name. That's how old it is.
Wow.
Like, it's been forgotten. This 18-year-old Chris learned about the cemetery. He was doing some metal detecting work on behalf of the local historical society. I know, we love metal detecting. So this is a quote from him. I came across a house that I was told was a synagogue. The family who owned the house mentioned that there was a Jewish cemetery in town, and I was blown away because I had no idea. There are not many Jews in the area, so every time I meet one, it's amazing.
Oh, bud.
So it sounds like he heard about this cemetery and it took him like 3 tries to actually find it because it was so overgrown, like he couldn't even find the door.
Oh my God.
Right. And he thought that it would be just like a corner of a normal cemetery, which is, I guess, how most of the Jewish cemeteries in Vermont are. But he actually found a full half-acre cemetery, and it contains like 60 to 85 graves, but there aren't any records about it. Like, it's just this, like, basically a random cemetery from the 19th and 20th centuries. But some of the family plots date back only decades. So there are some people that maybe still have relatives that are alive today, but yeah.
That's so cool that it was completely lost, that it had been like completely reclaimed by the land. And this kid was like, oh, no, no, no.
No. Yeah. This kid was like, no, I don't think so. This is important. This is an important piece of history. It sounds like there aren't a lot of Jewish people where he's living. And also this old Jewish cemetery has been forgotten. So he took it upon himself at 18, by the way, to just like take care of this. So this is another quote from him. I'm applying for a state historic marker to be placed there, and I want to get a nice gate if we can raise the funds that says Poultney Hebrew Cemetery, which is what it's referred to.
Oh, has this project been concluded, or is it ongoing?
This article was from December of this year.
Oh,
so this is happening. So as of the time of the release of this article, he has raised about $7,000 on a GoFundMe for, this historical marker and maybe a gate for the cemetery.
Damn. Do you have the link? Can you find the GoFundMe link?
If it's still active, I'm going to find it and we'll link to it.
Okay, because that would be nice I think I'm going to try to find it, definitely try to throw some money at that.
Yeah. This was just kind of thrown in at the end of the article I read, but I thought it was interesting. So Crisp wants to add a Geniza to the cemetery, Genizah, and it is, quote, a place for the proper disposal of worn out or damaged Jewish religious items.
Oh, that's fascinating. I had never heard of that.
No, I hadn't either, obviously. And it was like, okay, what is that? And how do I get there? And I'm just going to end on this article with a quote from our boy. Quote, although we have so many historic buildings and you see history everywhere around us, we're losing it every year because there's no laws preventing it. If we lose our history, we lose our identity.
Oh, buddy.
So wise.
So wise. Damn, yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I bet he's the reincarnation of some old puttery rabbi who's like, if we don't have our history, we don't have anything. I'm going to go restore the cemetery. I'm going to get my kippah on.
Okay, here's the other one.
Yeah.
So that one was in Vermont. This is in Italy, and it's a village named Ostiano. It's about 3,000 people, and there is an ancient Jewish cemetery that was in northern Italy's Po Valley that sat abandoned until the 80s. In 1987, 59-year-old Giuseppe Minera, who is a Catholic carpenter who lives nearby, decided to tidy it up, and he asked for permission from the nearby Jewish community of Mantua, which owns the cemetery.
Oh, bud!
This was in 87. He's 59 at the time. Quote, I cleaned and fixed the cemetery at my expense. I sacrificed part of my time without ever asking for anything in return. I cut the grass, I uprooted the brambles, I put the fallen and broken tombstones back on their feet, and I repainted the engraved letters that had become illegible.
That's so meaningful.
Isn't that so sweet? So he would work during the summer. So he'd go, after he worked his regular job as a carpenter, he'd sometimes go do a little work on the cemetery, or he'd go on Sunday. And he would just do this in his free time. Nobody asked him to do it. He actually asked permission to do this. And everybody was like, yeah, nobody's even looking at this cemetery. Please do this.
Oh. I'm having a little cry over here.
I see, you're misty. Sorry, I hope they're happy tears.
They're happy tears. Well,
I thought this was a sweet kind of, like I said earlier, charity is a big part of funerals, but also of the Jewish tradition. And I just love these kind of stories of charity and taking it upon oneself to just get something done that needs to be done.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, that just makes me happy because when, like, you know, it's rare that something happy relating to, usually like it's stories about anti-Semitism or like Jewish cemeteries getting defaced. It's rare that you hear a story of, hey, someone actually decided to, you know, restore a Jewish cemetery, and, you know, he's doing it on his own time just because he felt a responsibility to do so.
Yeah, and it sounds like there were, you say that, and it sounds like the site had been looted a few times, at least since World War II, but it is a cemetery from the 19th century. There are about 40 tombstones there. The oldest one goes back to 1812. So he renovated an area that was once used to temporarily hold the bodies before they were put in the ground. And now there is a basket where stones are collected to be placed according to Jewish tradition on tombs of loved ones.
Yeah.
He also, God, it's so sweet. He also on Sundays, he will accompany tourists who want to look at the cemetery. He'll just go and tell people about it. Most of the people that visit the cemetery, he said, are not Jewish, but he's turned it into this just kind of amazing place, and he has an interest in botany, so he's also turned it into a garden, basically.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm almost done here. I just want to end on a quote. He's a unique character, considering he's Catholic and does what many Jews should do, but don't. He's an exquisite, commendable person. On days celebrating Jewish culture and the memory of the Holocaust, he welcomes visitors and tells them about Jewish history inspired by the names on the tombstones. And this is from Emmanuel Kalorny, probably. He's the president of the Jewish community of Mantua, where this cemetery is. And this isn't his only cemetery that he's working on. He's working on cemeteries in like 4 other towns because, quote, they need more attention and restructuring, but economic resources are scarce and the people who should take care of them are aging.
Fucking bless this guy, like, honestly, because that's a job that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And he's fucking doing it. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, Giuseppe is just trying to get it done, same as Chris. I just love it. Yeah, I just thought that was a happy, kind of fun and light couple of Hanukkah stories that have nothing to do with Hanukkah, but everything to do with the Jewish people.
Well, I think, you know, those stories are Hanukkah themed because they're about spreading the light of the preservation of history, you know, love between all sorts of people. You know, you don't have to be Jewish to be touched by a joyous light of levity.
Yeah, but not too levity.
No,
wait,
not too
much levity.
No, do not go crazy with your levity. Keep
and
the titties
keep your
in.
Shirt on.
Yeah. Titties in for this funeral. My funeral, titties out.
Whoa, okay.
I mean, not all the way out. At your comfort, at your leisure. Titties at your leisure. That's what my funeral will be.
Titties at your levity.
Titties at your levity. Your titties can be as light as you want them to be.
Oh, God.
Oop, there Santa goes. He's doing a little handstand. Oh, gosh. I gotta get Facebook out of here. I was getting ready to present my story, and I was looking through the notes, and I was like, none of this looks familiar.
Because it was mine.
Because it was your notes. Okay, so for Hanukkah this year, I decided, since we're being thankful to people for their dedication, you know, to the Jewish community and doing things that they absolutely did not have to do, but did anyway, I would like to tell you the story of 3 extremely brave young women, Freddie and Truus, Oversteegen, and Hannie Schaft.
Okay.
And these are women who fought in the Dutch resistance against the Nazis and would seduce and murder Nazis in the woods.
Yes. Here for it. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's start out with the 2 sisters, Freddie and Truus. And Truus is Truus. I hope I am saying it right. So they grew up in the Netherlands in the 1920s, and they lived with their parents until they had a divorce. And then they were mostly raised by their mother, who had deep kind of communist principles. Like, she believed in kind of the rights for every kind of person and was very much a part of the working class. And her family lived in poverty, but they always tried to help people when they could. Like, they hid a Lithuanian family on their boat one time. They were always into helping people, and they felt the social responsibility to help others, even though they had very little.
Mm-hmm.
So during the war, they hid a Jewish family in their home, and Freddie and Truus began getting inspired to kind of participate in activism themselves. So they started handing out anti-Nazi pamphlets, which kind of got the attention of they lived in a town called Haarlem, Haarlem, and I think it's also pronounced Harlem, but
go for it.
But so their activism attracted the attention of Haarlem Council of Resistance commander Frans van der Wiel. And so this is a quote from Freddie. She said, quote, "We also glued warnings across German posters in the street calling men to work in Germany. And then we hurried off on our bikes."
Yeah, get the hell out of there.
Yeah, but like what they were doing was fairly dangerous because even though they looked like little schoolgirls, they were distributing this propaganda to people, letting people know what was going on. And if they got caught by Nazis or by Dutch police, they would definitely be killed. So they were doing pretty harrowing work. And like I said, they looked like schoolgirls because they were teenagers. And so in 1941, one of the commanders of the Haarlem Resistance Group visited their house and asked their mom if he could recruit the two of them.
Okay.
Excuse
Come
me,
on, ladies.
Mrs. Oversteegen. May I have your ladies for a dangerous mission?
I bet he wasn't very clear with Mom about what this would entail. Like, did she know how dangerous this was going to be?
Oh, I mean, maybe, kind of. But there's a fun quote from Truus that says, quote, "Only later did he tell us what we would actually be doing, sabotaging bridges and railway lines, and learn to shoot Nazis. I remember my sister saying, quote, 'Well, that's something I've never done before.'"
Oh my God. Yep. Okay. I'll go. But I guess I'll just have to learn something new.
Yeah, just gotta, they were nice young ladies. And so I think Freddie was about 14 at the time when they were joining this. Yeah. When I was a teenager, I was in kind of like a little gang with my friends, Jackie and Odessa. And what we basically got up to was smoking weed in parking lots, stealing traffic codes, and like driving around before, we fully had our permits. Not exploding railway lines and sabotaging like Nazi bullshit.
Yeah, no, at 14, I was watching TV in my best friend Claire's basement, like, and wondering what was going on in the world. So it would never even cross my mind to be an activist and put your life on the line at that time.
Yeah, what these ladies did was insane. So Freddie and Truus are in this resistance group, and they meet a friend named Hannie Schaft. I think it's Schaft, Schaft. So they kind of became a unit together. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about Hannie because she's an amazing badass. So her full name is Jeanette Joanna Jo Schaaf. And so she was a Dutch communist resistance fighter during World War II. She became known as the girl with the red hair because she had really flaming red hair. And she fucking kicked ass. And her like secret movement name was Hannie, which is kind of like derived from like a Dutch pronunciation of her nickname. I didn't bother to write it down because the Dutch names are something else, man.
We wouldn't even know how to approach the Dutch language.
I'm so sorry, my Dutch people. So Hannie was born in Haarlem, Netherlands. to her parents, who her father was attached to the Social Democratic Workers' Party, and her parents were very protective of Schaft because her older sister died when they were kids. But from a young age, Schaft discussed politics and social justice with her family, and they encouraged her to pursue her interest in law and become a human rights lawyer. But during her studies, her law studies at the University of Amsterdam, she became friends with several other Jewish students, and this made her feel really strongly about protecting Jewish people in this kind of turbulent time. And so the Germans were occupying the Netherlands at the moment. This is in 1943. And all of the university students were supposed to sign this Declaration of Allegiance to the occupied forces, to the people who are occupying the Netherlands, aka the fascists. And Schaft refused to sign this petition, and 80% of the other students signed it, but she did not. And so she couldn't continue with her studies. She was kicked out of university and she had to move back in with her parents.
Wow. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world right now, but to be kicked out of school because you don't agree with the fascist Nazi bullshit leaders, that's infuriating.
I mean, it's fucking heinous, but she took that anger and she took that sense of injustice and she started doing kind of small resistance acts at first.
Hell yeah.
You got to start somewhere. She would steal ID cards for Jewish residents, including her friends, so that they could have papers to get different places to hide from Nazis. She joined the resistance council that Freddie and Truus were already hanging out in, but she didn't really want to be a courier like all of the other kind of women in the resistance that they had. She wanted to work with weapons.
Yeah.
So she was responsible for sabotaging and assassinating various targets, and she carried out attacks on Germans, Dutch Nazis, and collaborators and traitors, and she spoke German fluently and kind of weaseled her way into the social circles of German soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
She did, however, she drew the line somewhere, though, because she would not. She was once asked to kidnap some children of a Nazi official, and she refused because if the plan had gone south, they would have had to kill the kids. And she was like, nope. She said that was too close to what the Nazis themselves were doing.
Yeah, she has a great point there.
Yeah, but so one time she was seen at this particular location of an assassination and she was identified as the girl with the red hair. So then the girl with the red hair was placed on top of Nazis' most wanted list. It's badass as hell. Like I said, she joined up with our two girls, Freddie and Truus, and they were blowing up bridges with dynamite. They were disabling railroad tracks. But the most important thing that they did was they aided Jewish children by smuggling them out of the country or helping them escape from concentration camps.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was kind of their biggest mission, was to save children and get them out of the way of danger.
Now you've got me.
Yeah.
You got me.
Well, I'll just get you a little further and say this is a quote from an article from The Guardian. It says, quote, "The sisters regarded the killings as a grim necessity that was secondary to their more important work, rescuing children. The two helped smuggle Jewish children through the Netherlands, and sometimes even as bombs fell from Allied aircraft overhead. Occasionally they were not successful, and children were killed. This caused grief so profound that the sisters' descendants struggle to speak about those operations today."
Whoa. Ooh. Whoa. The killing and everything as secondary to saving children. That's just so moving.
Yeah, because they did all this badass shit. One of their things was that they would go into town and they'd get all dressed up and they'd see German soldiers and they'd be like, "Hey, you want to go for a walk?" And they'd be like, "Ah, fuck yeah." And then they'd get in the walk and one of them would be posing sexy against a tree and the other one would just shoot the shit out of them.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Good.
But I was reading a couple of different articles, and I'll link all my sources in the show notes, but they truly didn't enjoy the killing. They truly it haunted them for the rest of their lives, the things that they had to do. But they saw incredible atrocities. Like, I think Truus, there's a story about how the first time she killed a Nazi was because she saw him put a baby in a bag and then hit the baby against a wall.
Oh my
I'm only
God.
laughing because it's so unbelievably horrible.
So she saw that happen and was like, no, you're dead.
She took out her gun and like shot the guy without like a second thought.
I mean, how could you see that and not fight violence with violence? I don't know how you could witness something like that.
It's horrific. It's hard to justify violence, but the core of their need to do violence was the need to rescue these children,
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Hannie was arrested at a military checkpoint in Harlem on March 21st, 1945, and she was distributing an illegal communist newspaper called De Waarheid, which literally translates to the truth. So she was also transporting secret documents for the resistance, and she was captured by the Nazis. Oversteegen says she said she will never forget the day Schaft failed to return from her assignment. Though her hair was dyed black, the color of her roots revealed her identity.
Shoot.
Yeah. So in 1945, at age 24, Schaft was executed in the dunes of West Harlem, just 18 days before the Netherlands was liberated.
Oh.
Yeah. But she was a badass to the end because according to lore, Hannie's last words were, "I'm a better shot," because the executioner didn't kill her on the first go.
Oh my God. Hannie.
But the other two, Truus and Freddie, survived the war.
Okay. Good.
And on November 27th, 1945, Schaft was reburied in a state funeral, and Queen Wilhelmina called Schaft the symbol of the resistance. And
oh my God.
Yeah. And after the war, the remains of 422 members of the resistance who were found in the Bloemendaal Dunes, which is where they executed people, 421 men and 1 woman.
Oh.
And then she was reburied at the honorary war cemetery at the Bloemendaal Dunes, and a bronze commemorative statue of her stands in Kanu Park near Harlem. And she was one of only 95 people to receive the Dutch Cross of Resistance. And General Eisenhower awarded her a decoration that it's possible was the Medal of Freedom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well earned. It sounds like she earned all of it.
Yeah, and like the other two went on to have very full lives, even though they were completely traumatized by the war.
Sure.
Truus became a sculptor and a painter, and Freddie had a wonderful family, and they both died, I think, at the age of like 92.
Wow.
And so they lived these full and happy lives, but they fought this extreme and necessary fight. And I think it's in the spirit of Hanukkah because they were fighting for what was true and what they really believed in.
Of course. Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, that one's a little bit of a downer, but I just thought these...
it's all good. It's real. And Hanukkah is a time, as a non-Jew, Hanukkah to me seems like a time to reflect on the past, but also to be hopeful for the future and to make a better future with charity and with ongoing, continued, empathetic practices.
Yeah, and to be thankful for what you're privileged. Try to extend your wealth and your love and your privilege to others, and, try to hold a light of hope within yourself, because I think that's what we need right now is to light each other's little hope fires. I'm getting mushy.
No, that's I was like, I don't even want to say anything else. That's how I want the episode to end. It's so poignant.
Well, I will end by saying I wish all of you a happy and safe Hanukkah. Celebrate safely and, get on that Christmas creep.
Get on that Christmas creep. Yeah, we'll be back next week with our Christmas episode.
Yeah, we're doing it both holidays. And then the next year we'll do some winter solstice stuff and maybe a Kwanzaa episode. You tell us what holidays you want celebrated.
Yeah, and if they have nothing to do with bones, we'll just make shit up.
Yeah, that's what we did for this one.
Woo-hoo!
No. No, we didn't make anything up.
All right. Well, stay safe. Happy Hanukkah. and bon voyage.
Bon voyage. We love you.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Bones!